So one of the biggest purchases you're ever going to make as a screen printer is your press. And we have many options when purchasing. Not only are you looking at the size of your press and the footprint that it'll take up, but you also have options such as used presses or new presses. And luckily we have had the opportunity to do both routes, and there are some pros and cons of each that you'd kind of want to look into. But what we're going to do real quick is just go over the basics and why you may want to go brand new, or maybe you want to go with a used press. And we'll kind of point out the benefits, and also at the end I'll go over what you should look for if you do decide to go with a used press. So there is a lot of value with going used on a press, but sometimes the value of going brand new exceeds those. So we will start with going brand new. So this was our first press. We purchased this brand new from Rock. A lot of these things will kind of go not only just for Rock, but other vendors as well. Is when you buy new, you're going to have all of the tech and service that you need at your fingertips. And the new purchases are also going to come with install. So you're going to have a professional coming in, setting up your press. They're also going to help you understand all the information for the wiring that you're going to need, the air that you're going to need. And they'll also guide you in the press size that you'll need as well. Accessories like your flash, all of that stuff, they're going to go over and show you, and you'll also have training provided. Upon install, someone will kind of go over everything as well. Another thing with purchasing new, most of the vendors and distributors will also have financing partners. If this piece of equipment is something that you wanted to finance, you have the ability to do that. Some people like to pay in full, some like to make payments, and that's kind of a cash flow thing depending on your business. If you're just starting out, maybe it's more favorable that you don't take all of your money and put it into a press right away, so you can make your payments and grow your shop that way. And so that's really kind of a personal business choice. With this press, it was something that we knew we could grow with. We looked at the work that we had at the time, and most of it was 1 and 2 color stuff. So we opted with the 4 color press, and that allowed us to print, flash, print again, as well as do some multicolor. It did have to do multi-print, but the price point was a lot lower, and it was something we knew we could manage with the workflow that we had. So you really want to look at the types of jobs you have, because if I could go back and I knew everything that I knew now, which you're just not going to be in that situation, I would have gotten a much larger press. But what you have to remember is the time and place that you're purchasing these. So in our position then, we're a lot different than we were now, but this stuff got us to where we were. So timing also has a lot to do with it. Are you just starting out? Is this your first press? I would highly recommend for the first press that, if possible, go with a brand new press. Now, what we were able to do after owning this press for 2 years, we jumped up to a much larger press, and this is a P12, and we have 8 colors on this. We were limited kind of by the width of the building to not be able to go larger, but this was our used press purchase. And a lot of times the misconception is that a used press is going to be cheaper than a new press, and in a lot of cases the purchase price might be cheaper than going brand new. But when you have to add in transportation, freight, install, and uninstall, the price of this can easily start to be very close to a brand new press. So why was it that we went with a used press for our second press? So the best way to describe this press for us was that it was something we wanted, but we didn't need right away. So we didn't have to go out and purchase it to keep up. We were already running full time with this press, but we really, really wanted this press, but we were making do without it. It took a little bit longer on the smaller press, but this one covered everything that we needed to do. So we weren't in a rush to purchase it, which allowed us the time to wait for this deal to pop up. Now, if we were waiting for a deal like this and trying to start our shop or trying to go from manual to auto, there is no timeline. There is no guarantee that a press like this is going to pop up. But if you are serious about your business and know that you want to be in it for the long haul, purchasing brand new, you can schedule out everything that you have to do. So in my opinion, going used becomes a great opportunity. One, when you don't absolutely need the press right away. And two, when you are able to move and uninstall the press and bring it to your shop on your own. So the price of having someone come tear down a press and freight and all of that, and then you're also, regardless if you buy used or new, I would highly recommend that the only way you have a press reset up is having a tech come out, because they'll kind of be able to go over everything, make sure everything's level and lined up. It's the cheapest thing that you can do to ensure your press is operating at its full potential. So regardless, new or used, you're always going to want to have a tech come out and do that. But if you're not going to be the one to fly out, break a press down, rent a box truck, drive it back on your own, you slowly add up all of these costs, and you're within a very close window of something brand new, which then you know everything about the press, it's got its warranty, all of that. But it's definitely worth it if you're going to take the time and do it all yourself. So we were able to fly out to Texas. We purchased this press. Alexa and I tore it down, loaded it up in a box truck, drove all the way back to our shop, and then we brought everything in, got it all laid out, and that's when we had our tech come in and do the final install. The one thing I will say is, if I were to have purchased this press as my first press and I went to buy it used, I would have no idea what I was looking at and what I was looking for when I purchased it. So those are the things I want to go over now. If you do decide to go with a used press, what should you be looking for and how can you look for it? The first thing is understanding this dashboard. Most presses, most brands all have an index counter. So that's something you'll want to look at and be able to understand, so you can see how many impressions it's had, how many indexes, and stuff like that. The other thing, which we can go over here on this press. So we'll do this here on our first press. Things that we did when we got to look at the used equipment were testing that all the heads came up and down, that the print strokes traveled their full distance back and forth. And then also what we did was go over to the flashes and run a test. What we're doing is just testing that all the bulbs and those worked and different stuff like that. But if you've never run a quartz flash or anything like that, you wouldn't know necessarily to check some of these things. Another thing that was very important was pulling up all the serial numbers and having the owner send us those, not only on the press, but on the flashes. And you should be able to confirm with any of the vendors if those pieces of equipment have any liens on them, that they're aware of. That way you don't accidentally end up purchasing something that somebody owes a ton of money to the bank. And then if they decide that they know now you have that equipment, that you are out the equipment and the money. So those are a few things to check. The next thing that I would recommend is asking them to show you where the power hookup is. That way you can confirm the size breaker that is currently hooked up to the press and confirm that your shop will have the correct power. The other thing is ask them to send you a picture of the air compressor and chiller that was used on the press. If they don't know what that is, that's probably not a great sign. You want to make sure that any of these presses that operate with air have a clean, dry air going into them, and that is something you can check down here. But it's easier to ask them and make sure, because you want to make sure that that was all connected and operating the entire time this press was going. so that you don't run into any issues in the future. So those are kind of a few things that you want to save yourself the trouble. And if they don't have it hooked up to the correct air, maybe it's a opportunity to go look at another press. But it is up to you whether or not you think it is worth going new or going used. There is a ton of value though in going brand new. They're going to get you everything you need on time, and you'll have the service. And once you're already a customer and you understand your press, I think that's probably the better time to start looking for used equipment, because then you know what you're looking for. You're already familiar with the press, because regardless of the press size, it's pretty intimidating going from a manual setup into auto, and also just growing your shop at any stage. But understanding the workings of this press, you'll become very familiar with it very fast, and that'll make you even more confident in the ability to purchase a second press. And sometimes even your second press, it's better to go brand new, because you can build it out just the way you want, depending on the extra space that you may or may not have. But those are kind of the overview recommendations. But there are a lot of great opportunities out there. But another thing you'll be able to see is that when you go to look at the used market, they're not crazy cheap, and they're not much cheaper than going new. But even at that, when you go to the used market, you're going to notice one thing, and that a lot of presses hold their value very well. And so that's kind of another encouraging reason to go brand new, is because one, worst case scenario, you need to get rid of it and you're no longer in the business. You know you have something that is quality, will hold its value, and has the ability to be resold. So I recommend you kind of take a look at both new and used presses. Highly recommend considering the opportunity for used, but only after your first press. I think you'll learn a lot more about your press, understand it better, and know what you're looking for and know what you need. But again, when you go to the used market, you're going to see that the prices aren't always crazy cheap compared to a brand new press. And with a brand new press, you're getting basically the whole works. They're going to make sure that you have the electrical that you need, or at least understand what electrical you need, the air supply that you need, and all of that. So it's up to you if you're willing to put in the work and do a lot of the work yourself. That's kind of the only area where you get to save a lot on a used press, because presses in general, if they're one of the top 3 brands, they're going to hold their price really well, which is another reason that it's not that deterring to go brand new, because you know that they're not going to become worthless after you buy them if you decide to change paths or anything like that. But just keep an eye out. You never know what you might find, but if you're not in a rush, used is a great option. But if you're kind of planning out your entire year and really committing to screen printing for the long run, I highly recommend going brand new. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'd be happy to help, and we'll see you guys in the next one.